and welcome to another episode of Wedflics. I'm your host, Julia Braime. I'm the founder and editor of Brides Up North, the top UK wedding blog for Northern couples, and the editor of Unveiled magazine. Today on the show, we meet Unveiled Network member Martyn of Martyn Hand Photography. Martyn's great at getting his wedding couples to relax into the moment, allowing him to take away those all-important keep forever shots. Let's meet him and find out more about his work. Hi Martyn, and welcome to Wedflics. How are you today?
I'm good. Positive and upbeat, which is a nice feeling.
Excellent. That's what we always want. Just as an aside, Martyn and I are filming this just after Boris Johnson's released a bit of a roadmap for us, for everybody and for the wedding industry out of lockdown. So we're just processing that information and staying positive and looking forward to a future where weddings are normal.
Yes, please. But yes, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. So, Martyn, let's introduce you and your business. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm Martyn Hand, and my business is Martyn Hand Photography. I'm a wedding photographer, based around Yorkshire, but I get to travel all over, which is quite nice. And yeah, my process, my aim is always to capture real weddings authentically and honestly, with a sprinkling of some magic here, there, and everywhere, and just present my couples with beautiful images that they can look at and relive their day time and time again.
I love that. So, how did you get into wedding photography then? How did your magic making begin?
I got married, as cliche as that sounds. So basically, my background is I used to work when they were allowed and before in nightclubs. I was a nightclub DJ, and I always had a camera with me. And I just used to take creative sort of pictures from the DJ box or around clubs, and always enjoyed that sort of side of things. And my camera just sort of went everywhere with me. So photography's always kind of been there. I don't know whether I've ever been any good, but I've always had a camera. And then when me and my wife, Kerry, when we started to look for suppliers for our own wedding, photography was obviously the thing that I was kind of left in charge of. And I realised quite quickly how much creativity and allowance there is in wedding photography. A lot of people think of the typical cliche of, you stand there for 40 minutes and have group photos and it's all posing, couple pictures. And when we started to look, we realised there was so much more scope to it. The real moments, the real sort of side of it was there. And then there were like I say, the creative or the magical style portraits that were possible, far more possible than what I actually thought of as well. So we got married and we had an amazing photographer. And then through him, I asked if I could carry his bags one day, or sort of go along with him to a wedding. And surprisingly, he said yes.
What was his name?
It's Barnaby Aldrich.
Okay, yeah.
Good old Barnaby, who is still a very close friend of mine now. And this is, I've got to work it out, 6-7 years on from our wedding. And he gave me a leg up essentially. But he also gave me the confidence. He was saying, look, the stuff you're shooting is already good enough anyway, so just go out and get some couples and work from there. So after sort of doing probably a year with him, and then a bit of a year of umming and ahhing, in late 2016, we was like, right, well, let's give it a whirl. So then I kind of had 3 full years, and then 2020, and now I'm here ready for 21 to kick back in and go again.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great way to train, really. It would be the way that I would always kind of suggest that someone fresh to it would train. Obviously, it's good to, if you want to get the qualifications or whatever, but there's nothing like the on-the-job experience.
Well, this is it. Everything I've kind of done, from DJing to I do some video work, I do motion graphic stuff, and then this is obviously my mainstay, but everything is self-taught or taught through another industry professional doing that. And the thing is, it wasn't only working with Barnaby, and then since then I've worked with lots of other photographers, and I like to, it's quite a weird thing, I think, but I like to second shoot for other photographers as well as shoot my own weddings, because there's arguably less pressure and a little bit more freedom, which is always good. But also, I get to see what other people do, and I think I'm actually quite analytical when it comes to some stuff, and I will really break things down on people's processes. And I've been able to sort of just cherry pick the things that I like, and then disregard the things I really don't like. So working with these other photographers, I've definitely learned what I want to sort of do and what I want to provide for my client, and then also what I feel is important, for my couples. And I've seen examples of things where photographers have had their own agenda, and almost, I'm not going to say they've ruined a couple's day at all, but they've really taken some time away from the couple, which they're not going to get back on their wedding day, all for a single picture, which may not even mean a lot to the couple.
I've seen evidence of that as well, both in being so wearing like that, so wearing my editor's hat.
Yeah,
I've seen evidence of that.
Yeah.
I've seen evidence of it at a wedding.
Yeah.
As a guest, but also with my editor's hat on.
Yeah, it's so hard because when I've seen it in 3 instances of when I've been like a guest, when I've been second shooting with a photographer, and then when I've been a second shooting video for a good friend of mine, and a completely different photographer. And each case is slightly sort of different, but you definitely look at it and you go, that's not well, that's not what I would do, but also that's not the unless the couple
this
specifically
really
asked for that.
That's not really on.
Yeah, it's so.
That's what I felt when I was a guest at the wedding. I thought, from what I know, which is a lot for about the wedding industry, not sure about
Would
this.
you do that? Yeah, I mean, my approach as well, probably because of that, and is on a wedding day to be as hands sort of off, and as if I'm going to do anything when it comes to say group photos or little set pieces or portraits for the couple, I want it to be quick, and I don't want them stringing it all together so it's one big chunk of time that they remember, or the photographer was around us for that bit. I break it down into small little segments, and just when it feels right. Like one thing I always do, let's say a couple are getting married in a church. The traditional thing is straight away, photographer always goes, right, let's do some group photos. Everybody gather around, let's do the group photos. And I think times have changed quite a lot, and there'll be a lot of photographers who agree that, we don't do that anymore. But my approach has always been, look, you guys need time now to see everybody, hugs and kisses. That's when the emotion is at its absolute highest. So, and that's what I go for, and that's what I want to create. So then, we can do the group photos later on. If you specifically want them at the church, I'm still going to give you 15 minutes of hugs and kisses, no matter how much time there is. And then we'll fire through the group photos even quicker. But it's little things like that where I want to give my couples the best experience they can have. And in turn, because they're so, let's say, free and in their day, as opposed to worrying about timelines and photography, I get the better images and I get the better moments and the real stuff from them.
Yeah, so there's a trade-off there, because you might think, well, since you're not kind of taking time to be with the couple, taking from them time to be with the couple, do you not get as many good images? But actually, by letting the day flow and letting the couple enjoy their day, that's when the absolutely killer content comes, isn't it?
Completely. I mean, there's the whole... The buzzword, or the words that a lot of us photographers use, and I mean, I still see myself as relatively new in this world, so I'm still learning all the time, but the buzzwords are the documentary or the candid photography, and the words that couples use to describe that are real or natural moments. And all that means is it's not been directed by somebody. You've not been told to stand there and do something. It's just happened. And then as long as your photographer has got awareness of what's going on, they're going to capture it. They're going to get that. And then that's going to be real. And the other beauty is, I don't solely focus on my couple. They've got X amount of guests there, whether it be 15 or 150, they've got guests with them. And I want them to have real and honest images of who those people are. So when Uncle Bob and Aunt Fanny haven't seen each other for 20 years, and they come together and they have a laugh about something they did when they were kids, I I'll already understand that relationship because I've been watching and paying attention all day. So then I'm going to get that moment because I know it's going to happen and I know probably where it's going to be. And I think when couples see those images, I get comments on it all the time. You know, ours are amazing, but you got this picture of my nan and it's so real and we love it. And they're the important ones. They're the ones that matter.
Yeah, they
So,
really are, more so than the group shots. I mean, I have a wedding album from my wedding. I'm really glad I got an album.
yes.
At the time, it was just around about the time when it was started to be debated, do we want an album, do we not? And I went down the traditional route, and I think that's the route to choose. I'm going to put my neck out there and say, get an album.
Yes.
Yeah, and in my album, it's definitely, and also things have changed in photography in sort of 10, 11 years, and it was all a lot of posing, a lot of group shots.
Yeah.
At the time, that was exactly what we wanted. So, you know, I can't really...
It's because there was arguably maybe nothing, no alternative, or it was, you know, seen as too different sometimes. Whereas now I think that the ironic thing is it's almost flipped. Nobody wants portraits, or nobody will actively say to me, oh, we want a good 45 minutes of portraits of you posers and you look amazing. And
I would say that.
well, I mean, there are one or two couples that I've got who definitely do want that, but they also want the natural. The first words out of everybody's mouth are the relaxed and the natural. And then, like, so my approach is I give my couples a pre-wedding shoot, and that's not as an extra or an add-on, that's in their package, because I want them to have some pictures together and realize that it is effortless. The way I approach a portrait shoot is effortless. We have fun, and then out of that you'll get some amazing images of the two of you together. So when it comes to their wedding day, they're not panicking or worrying about the portrait section. It's going to be a bit of fun and a bit of time off from being pulled pillar to post by their guests.
Precisely. There's kind of 2 points that come out of that. With the album thing, I was going to say my favorite images in the album are the ones that are less posed.
Yeah.
They capture, thankfully everyone's still with us, but they capture, you know, people that we love doing fun things, and it's good memories. But with the portraits bit of the wedding, I do think there's a place for the portraits bit of the wedding. And it's the kind of images that, you know, you would frame and have on the wall or wherever, the kind of standout shots, the hero images, if you were.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it is about the two of you. So it's a romantic time, and it's nice to have images of the two of you together in kind of a way you wouldn't normally be.
Yeah,
together.
it doesn't normally happen. People, you know, nowadays we live in selfie culture. So the only pictures that people get of themselves together as a couple are normally selfies. It's very rare these days that you'd hand your phone or camera to somebody else to take a nice picture of the pair of you. Especially if you're out and about, you know, maybe if you're at home or you're with certain people that you know, you would. So to have somebody else as almost a professional taking those pictures of you together is almost a unique experience these days.
Yeah.
And I say to all my couples, look, you know, we're going to do some portraits, even if they're completely relaxed of you guys and you're just going to go for a 5-10 minute wander, we're going to do them. And then it's just a sliding scale of how much they want. And I always say to my couples, you know, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. If we want to be really creative, and I like to use flash to make some sort of dramatic portraits, then game on. And I'll always kind of try and set at least one up on an evening once it gets dark, just to give them again that little bit of something magic. But I think the point that I like to sort of get across to my couples is that's not going to take over your day.
No.
You know, the reason we do the pre-wed is to show you how quick and relaxed and easy it can be.
And how fun it can be as well.
Exactly, that's it, yeah.
That was kind of my other point, was like on the wedding day, it is quite nice to kind of have that time with just you and your other half and the photographer. And it's kind of like your sort of superstar moment.
Yeah,
and
completely.
I think it's really fun, even if you genuinely hate having your photo taken normally. Like, it's a different thing. You've had, you know, if you're a girl or a guy, actually, you've had your makeup done, your hair's been done, you're in like your best outfit, you're feeling good about yourself on your wedding day. You're suit and boot and ready to go. And you know, kind of just that little bit of attention is, you kind of like it and you get into it. And I think that's what the pre-wedding shoot can show you.
The thing is, the reason I started including them is exactly for that. It's allowing people to have that insight before their day, because otherwise people build up a level of apprehension about the pictures, and there's arguably no need for it. I have so many couples that say to me, I had an email this morning where they were like, we're getting married, we're not fans of having our picture taken, or we're not that confident in front of a camera. And I always kind of say something similar to each couple that says that, and the fact that nobody ever is. All the pictures you see on my website or the Instagram in my portfolio, any of the portraits, all those couples said the same thing. It's just we happen to click, which is another important thing, which is massive for my sort of business. But we click and we get on, and we have an understanding in a relationship, which then allows you to be natural and create beautiful images. And just back to what you mentioned about the albums as well, like I've done a massive sort of U-turn in this past 12 months, and I'm now fully advocate of print. I think because I come from a digital age, I'm just going to give my couples a USB and an online gallery, and they can sort their own albums if they want to. It's not really my thing. And then I got some sample albums printed, and like we never got a wedding album from our own wedding.
Oh no.
And then we did last year. It was kind of idle thumbs. Let's do an album, let's see what we can do. And just having it there available to look through and relive, it's massive. It's not reliant on technology. It's not reliant on iPads or a USB stick or something getting lost. It is, as long as you know where you've put your album, you can always look at your images. So
it becomes more important. So we've obviously been married 10 years, and in that time we've had 2 children. So our children are just coming up to 8 and 4.5.
Yeah.
And the 2 girls, so obviously they like weddings and stuff. And obviously mummy works in weddings, so it's a bit of and we have our wedding album. It used to be just like kind of in a box in a cupboard somewhere. I don't know where it was. We now have it like out on our coffee table, front and center.
Yeah.
And the girls look through it and they show their friends, when friends are allowed in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's become more important in that way as time goes on. And I'm such a cliche here. I actually love as well that my images are like sort of group shots and look a bit dated. I think that's really cool.
Well, I think that's it. Like, again, the importance for me when it comes to images, like I'd say to my couples, the group photos are massive, but they don't have to be the tired and traditional time-consuming approach to group photos. And that's the bit that people don't like, is the time-consuming element. It takes 45 minutes to take 10 group photos. It doesn't. I smash through them in 10 minutes. And as long as people are on side and we have a level of communication, it's effortless, and we get them done, they look beautiful, and then you can enjoy your day. So once you tick that box, people go, oh, okay, yeah, well, we want group photos, and they're amazing. And those are the ones that mum and dad and grandma and granddad are going to print and are going to have on their walls or in frames, and that they're going to love. They're the ones that they want. So that's why we do them. But also because, like you've said, there's certain family members that may not be here for much longer, or in 10 years time. So to have that group photo of you all together is priceless.
Yeah. So, and you know what, the attitude changes, because like you say, like group photos are not the group photos of old now. No. They're like modern. And I will definitely be a mum who prints a group photo in the future.
Yeah, completely.
I haven't printed any of my own wedding, but I know I'll print one of my daughter's weddings if they choose to get married. I mean, they better get married. I've got a lot of contacts, but I have a lot of favors I need to be calling in.
Yeah.
But it's just an evolution of kind of time and things changing and adapting with that. But photography, nothing's how it used to be. It's all
this is it. And I think one thing I've tried to do is, like I say, I think I'm a creative at heart. I've always realised that. So I've tried to push for the slightly different creative elements in my work.
Yeah.
And again, some of that comes from looking at other photographers that I admire and aspire to. And some of that comes from being in the moment on a wedding day and having a couple and a connection where I go, right, let's just try this. But the other element is that timeless sort of collection of images that are more traditional. They're executed in a modern way. So the group photos, or the morning preparation, or the details, or a picture of a dress, I will take. People and human emotion are my number one priority. But when it comes to things like the details of a dress, or the rings, or the shoes, I understand the value and the importance and the time that it's taken somebody to choose those elements for this day. So to not take an image of them would be sort of, you know, doing a disservice to my couples.
Do you know what's really interesting about that debate about, so, okay, for readers of magazines and readers of blogs,
Yep.
you know, I'm an editor of both.
Yep.
When you're planning your wedding, the details are very important.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, you obsess about your shoes, you obsess about the favors, perhaps, whatever you're going to pick, your flower choices. And they're very, very important. And on the day, they're important, but less important. Afterwards, in the imagery, the most important thing is the people and the emotions. You're right. But it is nice to have those details to remind you. But when it comes to putting an album together and you have to leave images on the cutting room floor, you're going to leave the details out and you're going to put the people in. It's you've got to find a photographer that's good at the people as well as the details, good at the emotion.
Yeah, I'm gonna. You did it earlier on. I'm gonna stick my neck out and say it's arguably easier for people to take good detail shots, good scene setter shots, good, you know, this would look good in a magazine or a blog shot. Because we both know in magazines and blogs, I mean, this thing comes back to the album. I love where we've gone with this chat, because somebody's wedding day, the best thing I always kind of say to my couples is it's their story, right? And we look at stories in books, which is where the album sort of ties in, and that makes sense. But as a story, there are, you know, our couple are our main characters, and there's a supporting cast, which is all their friends and family, and then there are the scene setters and the details, which then make up their day. So those are all the important bits. It's just, like I say, it's how you receive or how you sort of see the images. And like you say, for their album, they're always going to want their friends and family all over it. But just to have reminders of, oh, that was how amazing my dress was, or those are my shoes that took me 6 months to find, you know, whether they're not instantly important, again, 5-10 years down the line, just to be reminded of how beautiful they were, is what my job is. And like I say, it's easy to take those shots than it is to get the really good shot of grandma and granddad having that one split second moment that you're not going to recreate again. So you've got to be good at everything. You've got to have, you know, good perception, but good sort of compositional skills and understanding of light, but understanding of emotion. And I think some of the best wedding photographers out there have this combination of all that together, which, not trying to, I'm kind of, that's just,
I think it's such an interesting, I mean, it's so interesting how the emphasis is different depending on what you're going to use your images for. So are you going to pick one for the mantelpiece? Are you going to put an album together? Are you going to submit to a blog or magazine? Even a blog or magazine is different. The images I would choose to put together a feature. So it's really cool. And it is creative. And this is where my creativity starts to sing. So I could talk about this for hours, but we better not. We better talk about your work. So what's your sort of signature style? I know we just talked about emotion, but how do your images look, like color-wise and depth? And
so I'd say my images are quite vibrant. I like color. I'm not a fan of the slightly muted and stylized tones that are around right now. And there's some photographers that do, and some photographers that just try and keep it faithful. My approach is a lot more realistic and faithful to the colours that they're on the day, with a slight sort of tint and punch of contrast. I want people to look real, not orange or green, if that makes sense. But with regards to content, we've kind of said it. It's real and honest emotion that happens throughout their day, whether it be of themselves or their guests, but not just snapshots, not just bringing a camera up to my face and taking that picture. It's thinking about composition and thinking about each frame as its own little story. And I think that's what's important for me, because I want people to be able to look at an image and instantly see what its purpose is. So if it's a picture of a bride getting ready on a morning, yes, it's a bridal sort of preparation shot, but it's showing her beauty or her calmness or her anxiety, or, you know, there's meanings behind each sort of frame. And that is my approach for the majority of the documentary style of stuff that I do, which is probably 90% of a wedding day. And then the other 10% is, again, what we touched on, either the group photos, the portraits, or the sort of the little magical nighttime portrait.
So what's really interesting to me is you haven't been sort of traditionally trained.
No.
But I feel like you could teach this stuff, like the stuff about like each image tells a story and all that sort of thing is really thought out. And I really love that you put so much thought into your work. You could be teaching a photography course here and saying, okay.
I mean, the plan is like long-term goals. I would love to. So my background, I used to do a bit of teaching. I'm a performing artist way before I was even a DJ, and I taught. And ever since then, I've always said if I can get back to it in some capacity, I'd love to. I don't want to have to go down the traditional training for 6 years to be a teacher. But I'm a firm believer, like I say, I'm self-taught with a lot of stuff. And if you understand what you're trying to deliver and what you're trying to achieve, then you should be able to deliver it. And I think, that is a thought. Once we get out of COVID times and I get another good few years under my belt, I still feel I've got so much to learn as well. I do quite a lot of some sort of online workshops or other photographers that I admire, I chat to, and I'm always learning and tweaking and picking things up. But that's sort of the goal, because I think there's so many people who get into photography, whether it be weddings or just photography in general, and all they do is they pick a camera up and they think it's about gear and they take a picture and then they think it's about the editing and they miss the deeper stuff.
I agree.
And I think there's so much scope for people to understand that better and to fully learn. And, the other thing, I said this to somebody the other day, going right back to Barnaby, who I shot with, one of the most helpful things for me, and it wasn't exactly the session itself, it was just the thought of it. Once I'd shot that first wedding with him, I was his second shooter. We went through a full wedding day, and once we'd done it, I then went back to his a couple of days later, and we went through the images together, and he explained what he was looking for in these images, and he'd already got rid of some of the rubbish, but he kept some and said, this isn't great because of this, this and this. This is what I like, this and this. You need to do more of this next time. And his style and my style, he's a little bit more traditional than me. I'm trying to push the sort of modern edge, but there was definitely some consistencies between what we were thinking. And I always take that process now. And when I look back through a full collection of wedding images, when it gets to the, I've got, 6,000-7,000 to go through and get down to my figure that I'm going to deliver to my couples, I'm always asking those questions, and I know what I'm looking for and what I'm like, but it's not just the technical rules or the compositional elements. No. It's the, is this moment or is this image going to give somebody the feels? Are they going to look at this and be like, yeah, this is what I want? And it is that depth behind the image that's there.
And also, if it works as part of the overall set.
Yeah, completely.
Which is important.
Yeah, there has to be, again, something I'd like to think I've worked on is a level of consistency. So, again, I've got other photographer friends I chat to quite frequently, and some of them will tell me they'll edit an entire album or an entire wedding collection in an evening. Now, it usually takes me a good week of sat at the computer and going through bit by bit, and I think the difference is because I check over it, maybe possibly too much, but I want a level of consistency. And still to this day, I'll go back to a gallery from last year or 2019 and I'll look at it, full gallery delivered to a couple, and I'll go, that's slightly, the colour or the feel of that image is slightly out compared to the few around it. And it's, I think it's a progression that's always going to happen. Whenever you look back on all the work, you always pick faults in it.
I totally know where you're coming from, because I often have to edit a full image gallery of raw images before we're picking images for a magazine, particularly when it's for cover. We like to edit the raws and then pick a set and then really tweak it, fine tune it for cover. And so it's my worst bit of my job, I'll be honest, because there's so many to choose from, and each is different, each is good in a different way. And quite often you are literally cycling through this fast, thinking, okay, you know, what am I looking for here? And I know when I'm editing what I'm looking for. But I can imagine that a wedding gallery, you have to take so much longer because you can't just be looking for the eye contact or the hand placement or whatever. It has to be about each image.
Yeah, there's the technical side. So the rules of photography, of image creation, of, you know, composition and light and stuff like that. But there's also the emotional connection as well. And it took me such a while to realize this. So I've delivered images that are, I never ever thought I'd say this, but I've delivered images that are slightly out of focus because for whatever reason the camera's just not quite picked up on something, and it's not tack sharp. Now that's one other thing I like to think about my work, is it's all super sharp, and that's what I like to deliver. However, on the odd occasion that there's been an image where the emotion or the moment trumps any technicalities, I have to deliver that. And there are a couple of images where I've even gone, well, that's, you know, I need to show that on my website. That should be portfolio level, even though it's not perfect. And the fact that it's not perfect, I sound like such an arty whatever here, but the fact that it's not perfect, the imperfections are what make it more real. Yeah. So, and there's always that side to it. So there's so much to consider when you're doing it. And it starts with, like you say, going through the images so quickly. And I used to be, unless it grabs my attention, it's gone. Whereas now I take a little bit more time on that cull because I need to make sure what is being provided to my couples is, you know, even if it's technically not perfect, it's still gonna, it's the best image to represent their day or that moment at that time. I think that's the honest bit, along with all the good bits that go with it.
Do you kind of spend time with your camera not shooting weddings?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a self-confessed geek. So I have multiple cameras in this house, and we've got two little ones that are 4 and 2. And although Darce will kill me if I say she's 4 because she's 5 in a week's time. So
I understand that.
Yeah. So pictures of the kids quite a lot, to the point of it's now like almost daily pictures. And I have a camera just for in the house for family stuff, as opposed to using my 2 big wedding cameras. And I like to practice without sounding weird. I think that's also something else that's quite important. And you know, they're brilliant subjects to practice on because they're much faster than wedding guests, unless there's kids at a wedding. But even finding things like light, especially during lockdown, I did so much last year where I wanted to kind of do a lockdown diary of the 4 of us in the house all day long with no allowances to go to a zoo or to wherever. And the amount of images that I got that even surprised me, just because I was constrained. And I think the weird thing is I've learned in this past 12 months that I kind of like rules and constriction, which randomly allows me to push boundaries and be freer. So that's something I've been like exploring on like a personal sort of level. But yeah, I think if you do something, especially if you're doing it to make money and it's in a creative or artistic realm, if you don't practice or play or try stuff, then you're never going to reach full potential. You're never going to, you're never going to improve.
Totally agree. So, I write stuff just, for the sake of it all the time, and come up with phrases and ways of saying things, and practice my editing on, if a friend's having a website done, I'll say, well, do you want me to edit it? And they say, oh, I'll pay you. I say, no, it's fine, because I like to practice my hand on different types of text. And
exactly that. I mean, sometimes that's like a downfall for me. I have friends who go, oh, do you mind just doing a few pictures for us, or some family pictures, or this, that, and the other? I'm like, yeah. When we're allowed, I'll bring my camera around. They're like, oh, how much? I'm like, well, you're a mate, I'll just come around, we'll take some pictures, and it's fine. And then I end up almost doing a full session with them because I'm trying stuff, and they're like, but it's that self-assurance for myself that I can actually do what they're asking, and it's out of my norm in a way. And you have to also look at it in the sense of, if you look at any sort of sports person, they train, they practice, they have a lifestyle that they live by to succeed at what they do. And there's not a lot of difference between you know, somebody with an artistic profession and a sports person, other than the sport part maybe, but you know, you still have to train, and you have to understand, you have to study, and you have to look at, you know, again, we talk in business about unique selling points. You've got to realize how you're different to other people. And I think for me, like that practicing element, especially on the family, because I like to feature them on their Instagram and stuff like that, that helps me to sort of progress. And then I know if I go to a bride's house that's quite similar to my own, or they've got the same blinds, I'm like, oh, well, I know I could definitely get this sort of look, you know, because Dexter was looking out the window the other day, and it kind of, yeah. So I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, it drives Kerry, my missus, a bit mad, because I'll wake up in the morning, the camera will be lying around, and I'll start taking pictures of cereal. But, you know, there's stuff there to play with all the time, and I like to play. The downside is half the time I don't do anything with the images. The ones of the kids I definitely do, and I'm trying to streamline a process to get them out quicker. But I take other pictures, and it's just for the sake of taking them and practicing them, and then you don't do it out. But
that's enough, though. It's the act of kind of doing it, and you know, the composition and things like that, and like you said, the lighting, and just kind of having a camera in your hand as well. It becomes second nature, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely.
What's going back to weddings? What's your favourite part of a wedding day?
I mean, part of me wants to says like the dance floor.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Possibly because of my background in clubs. I'm always sort of connected to a good party or a dance floor. But that would also be the stereotypical answer that somebody who's worked in nightclubs would give. And it's not for that reason. It's just because I like to get involved, and people let themselves go. So there's more.
It's not, though, interestingly, it's not the stereotypical answer that wedding photographers give.
No, it's not.
So
everyone will sort of say, oh, you know, the portraits, or the I know a lot of documentary photographers love the sort of drinks reception, because all sort of weird and wonderful things happen, which is brilliant. And I treat that as kind of like photographic playground, like we're just talking about, you know, playing and whatever. That there's no pressure on that bit to definitely get the wonderful or the amazing, because there's nothing guaranteed that is going to happen. So that means you can go hunting and you can find it, and I love it. But I treat the dance floor and the sort of evening stuff with a similar vein. It's just, I think probably because it's technically harder to capture, so that's why it appeals to me more, because I think I could do quite well with it. So I love a challenge. So,
and also it's almost time to go home at that stage, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, like so this is something I do, which I don't think a lot of other photographers do. So all my packages I offer to couples are unlimited time. So I'm there with you from whatever in the morning, and I'll stay pretty much until the last person has finished dancing or you get kicked out. I mean, if couples want me to leave, or they're like, look, you know, we've had enough and we're all going to go a bit west now, so you can get off if you want, then I definitely will. But the first dance is amazing, but it is that almost traditional thing of a first dance. The last dance, however it sort of is the one that is definitely not traditional, and that is the one where the moments are going to happen. That's where Uncle Bob is going to go crowd surfing, and that's what I want to get. So majority of the time I stay a lot later, and a lot of venues and wedding coordinators that I chat with, they're always surprised by how late I am. I think 2019, about 1:45 in the morning was one wedding, and I've been there since 6:45, and it was only because they had to stop there and then, but I'd have kept going with them. So
yeah, but if you're there, you're there. You may as well get the shots, you know. That's
exactly
in for a penny, in for a pound, really, isn't it?
And it's that bit of the story. As soon as you start putting time constraints on it, this is something I realised. As soon as you say, oh, I'm with you from 9 o'clock until half an hour after your first dance, you're telling the couple that is their day, and anything that happens after it isn't important enough to be classed as their day. So as soon as you turn around and go, well, I'm with you all day, no matter what time you guys finish, you know, then you're saying that their day, their wedding, is more important than the time. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer of that. So
I agree with you. I think that's a really great selling point. Not only your images, but also your kind of attitude towards it. I think that's, you know, if I were a wedding couple looking to book a photographer right now, I'd be checking out Martyn Hand's work and thinking, okay, well, actually within these packages, we get a lot of value. So that is a bit different. Incidentally, my favourite part of a wedding is the confetti shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love a good confetti shot as long as I'm now at the point of where I say to my couples, you know, if you're up for it, let's try and do something different. Let's
What?
try and push
No.
boundaries. No, as in, let's still do confetti. And I mean, here's one beauty of a lot of the time I work with a second shooter because couples want both the morning preps covered and they might have a lot of guests, so they, you know, while we're off maybe doing groups or portraits, second photographer's brilliant for that. But what it also gives us is 2 shots at the confetti because I can put my second shooter in the safe spot and get the traditional right in front, and then I can always kind of, you know,
Run through the
play
crowd.
or do something different with them, yeah, which is always good. Just you know, just satisfies that little inner creative.
I just love it from an editorial point of view because it just brings the color and the pizzazz without kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
It
You
just
see a
adds
confetti image and you instantly, without thinking
yeah,
about it, have wedding in your head.
yeah,
That's
wedding,
what it is. Yeah,
happiness, celebration.
yeah,
It's
completely.
and that can be for any type of wedding, no matter kind of how pared back or
Yeah,
you know super slick and stylish the wedding was. A confetti shot always brings out the emotion and always brings
and
that
it's
sense
great
of
for the guests as well
oh,
because
my
who
favorite bit.
doesn't like throwing confetti?
Yeah, my favorite bit of a wedding as a guest. Well, okay, second favorite. My favorite bit is when they hand me the champagne at the groom's
Yes.
reception. That's my favorite bit. But the second favorite bit is confetti shot.
Yeah.
Closely followed by bride walking down the aisle, so you get to see what they're wearing. Because I'm
Yeah,
all about the bridal fashion.
there's a weird thing as a photographer. I understand the importance of that, and you have to understand the importance of that. But I've obviously, apart from when Kerry walked down the aisle to me, I've never had that feeling of, oh, what's she going to look like? Because I've been with them all morning.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing. So you have to almost, when I get to ceremony, I have a little reset moment. I give myself a couple of minutes and I go, right, what is important about this point of the day? Well, you know, the groom will not have seen,
Yeah.
nor will any of the guests have seen how this bride is going to look. We need to make sure that whatever I take gets that. And same for the bridesmaids and any flower girls. And it's,
I mean, it's all about the fashion, darling. At that
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I am a big bridal fashion lover, so I don't know if everyone feels the same. But I'm definitely waiting for the dress.
Yeah.
Definitely, I
Nice.
could care less about anything else. But anyway, yeah, that's just me. So, what's been your proudest moment to date?
So business wise, it has to be last November. So the Wedding Industry Awards, I was somehow awarded best wedding photographer in Yorkshire, which is a bit
Brilliant.
surreal. But I mean, I've won quite a few image awards, and there's a big difference between winning a few image awards, no matter how much praise there are for the image categories or whatever. But compare that to something like the Wedding Industry Awards,
Yeah.
because the Wedding Industry Awards is to do with couples as well as, you know, the photography judges or whatever. And it wasn't necessarily the winning part, although that was incredible and it's ridiculous and I don't know how it happened. But
Shut up! It was
well,
totally.
no, like with who was in it as well, I was quite shocked, and to the point of we'd let the kids stay up. I think it was a Saturday night. It was about 7 o'clock, and we've got a projector screen, so we pulled it down and we're sat with the kids. They were in onesies. We'd had a film afternoon. I was like, oh, we'll just put the award ceremony on. It's live because of COVID, so we'll just put the award ceremony on. And we were all in onesies. Just had a family day. It was lovely, and some of the other people that I know were, you know, really dressed up and in tuxedos and all this, and they'd taken pictures and sent them to us, and I'd said, oh, you know, good luck, all this sort of stuff. And then we went and won, and Darcy, my little one, was dancing around the room, and we all had a bit of a dance together, and just sent a video randomly saying, oh, you know, pajama party sort of celebrations.
I've
We
seen the
generally
video.
didn't. Yeah. Well, it apparently got best celebration video as well because we were all there in pajamas, but it
Yeah.
was surreal. So, but the point I'm making is, after all that, you know, I got the regional thing, and then you get entered into the national sort of finals, and the level of competition, the guys and girls that are at that level are just incredible. And you know their business and their mentality and their connection with their couples is going to be next level when you see the images that they get, because their images are there, and you know that they're not directing an entire day to get those images, because the rest of their portfolio is, you know, the relaxed and the real honest work. So they're just another level again. So even to be among them was incredible. But then I got the feedback from both the judges and the couples, and that was the bit where I sort of felt it really. Every single couple would give me like top marks for everything, and they'd all said it was just like having one of our best mates at our wedding with a camera. And that was the important bit, because that's what I want to do. The connection that you have with your couples is what brings out the real stuff. So the fact that they were all super happy with what they got and with how I'd been was just, that's when it really sort of hit home.
Isn't it? I think that's really nice. That's what's nice about those particular awards, is that they do well. I used to be a judge. I've stepped away since starting my Unveiled network because I felt like there was a conflict. But my goodness, is the judging process grueling? I have to say, I was quite glad to step away.
I can only imagine.
But yeah, it's a truly kind of, you know, bride and groom focused feedback process. So it's good. It's good. Well done anyway.
Thank you.
Very well done. I'll just so if couples want to get in touch with you, which I'm sure they will after hearing all about you and your work and your award-winning work and the pajama parties that accompany it, how would you want to drop your web address, and I'll pop it in here?
So the website is martynhand.com. Martyn is spelt with a Y. That's the only thing where people sort of can get confused. I'm trying to buy Martyn with an I, and then I can double it up, but no, it's martynhand with a Y .com. And then the easy
and not
one,
with a Y, just Martyn with a Y.
Yeah.
It's going to be on the screen.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the best bit. Or then Instagram, which is sort of the only other network that I'm really kind of now pushing, because it's the immediate one, which is just Martyn Hand Photo. So I do like live videos on there and chats with people and stuff, and it's the easiest way to kind of get in touch, really.
And to get to know you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Magic of Instagram. Thank you, Martyn. You've been an amazing guest. I think we could have chatted for hours and hours.
Definitely.
But I think we should wrap it up. But if you'd like to check out Martyn's amazing work, please do use those links and hit him up and see what he can do for your big day, and then give him a call.
That'd be amazing. Thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely chatting.